This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now, go to harrys.com and use offer code WhatTheTechHoliday at checkout and get $5 off the limited edition Winter Winston set.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew here, and of course I'm joined by the one, the only, Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
Today's an awful day for me.
All right.
A lot of stuff happening today. Just such a busy. It just the entire next couple months are gonna be insane. I'm going to California next week. Thanksgiving was on Thursday, so the shows got moved around on Thursday, and this Thursday there's a problem, so everything's getting moved around. How was your Thanksgiving?
Mine was fine. It was good. We just do it here, so it's nice. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't really have to do much. My wife does all the cooking.
What do you do while she's doing the cooking? Just watching football?
Playing video games, watching football, do a little bit of writing. That morning we drink beer, of course. We do our bagels and beer thing.
We went to my in-laws, and she did it late this year. So coming back, we sat in traffic for about an hour coming back to Queens from Long Island. It was miserable.
It's terrible.
Because that's, you're all bloated from all the food, and you're getting tired, and you're just sitting there in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the LIE.
Nobody wants that.
No, it's awful. But it's over. And Black Friday came and went, and Cyber Monday came and went. Did you get anything for Cyber Monday or Black Friday?
Did I? I don't. Not exactly. No, I mean, I ended up buying some stuff over the weekend, but I'm not even sure it was related to Black Friday. I was looking on the Xbox site. We've been playing some of the older Call of Duty games, so I don't have a good controller, but they didn't have Xbox 360 controllers for sale. They only had Xbox One controllers for sale, so I bought the cheapest controller I could find or whatever. But do you buy
the no-name ones, the third-party ones?
No, I buy the Microsoft.
You buy the Microsoft ones. Yeah, I've made the mistake of buying, for my PS3, I bought, the crappy GameStop version. The thing is the worst. I mean, it barely works.
No.
I ended up buying something yesterday. I bought an Amazon Fire TV.
Did you get it on sale?
Yeah.
There was a nice sale yesterday.
It was $69. How could you say no?
Yeah, it's not a bad one. In fact, I think I rebooted, so I lost it. But I think you had something about, let me find the show notes again.
The Fire phone?
No, I thought you had something about set-top boxes in here. Do you?
I do, yeah. Roku's still kicking butt.
Okay, because, I had some, okay, we'll talk about that later. But, the full Fire TV is not bad. I still think the Roku is the better one to get, but $69, whatever.
But you also have the stick though, right? Did you get yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's okay.
I'm still waiting for mine. Mine is supposed to come after the New Year, and I just got an alert yesterday saying hey, we actually got more in stock, so you're getting it December 23rd.
Oh, really?
Right before Christmas. Yeah.
Wow. I hope you didn't want to give it as a gift.
No, it's for me. So
that's cool.
So I ordered the Fire TV.
But now why bother? Why would you bother now?
You know what? I got so many TVs in this house. Yeah. I just needed something to hook it up to. I have one TV in one of the rooms that I don't have any of these devices hooked up to it. And I didn't want to go get the Roku for that room. I ordered the Fire Stick for that. And now, I got another one. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give it to somebody. Who knows?
Right.
But I'm excited to get it because of all the reviews and the fact that this device has taken a nice chunk of the market share away from Roku and Apple TV.
Has it?
So I posted an article in the show notes about Roku's still the king of streaming, but Apple TV is number 2, and number 3 is the Fire TV. And that's pretty quick. I mean, they're new to all of this, and they've taken over,
Yeah. Well, Amazon. This has always been the theory with Amazon that by virtue of their just presence, because people go there, Yeah, to shop every single day. They can put out these things, tablets, phones, set-top boxes, and certain percentage of people will buy them. I mean, one of the things I really liked about the Fire TV Stick was that it kind of gave you everything you needed. There was nothing left. There was not, oh, you got to go buy a cable. Which actually, by the way, is the problem with the Fire TV. I think Amazon's got a nice consumer focus. So they do a pretty good job of it on most of their things.
Do you think, like for the holiday season, now that
Yeah.
Amazon, has their own set-top box, do you think people are going to Amazon to buy Rokus, or are these people going to end up buying a Amazon Fire because they're on Amazon?
Well, I think they buy both. I mean, Rokus are still really popular, so I'm sure even Amazon will probably sell more Rokus this holiday season than Fire TVs. But the Amazon box is solid, and there are some advantages to it that I think are kind of interesting, because Amazon has a years old app store, and they have adapted some of their apps to be played on the TV, and you can play some with a remote, or you can get an optional hand controller, which looks a lot like an Xbox controller, and you can play some of the games with that controller as well. And that's something Roku can't really do. Roku actually does have games, by the way, but you have to use their controller for it, and that's a little goofy. It's like a Nintendo controller, and
but they never got the gaming kicked off. That was a big problem.
No, because they don't have a big app, like a developer story for that kind of thing. Whereas Amazon has been doing it for their devices. They can benefit from all the work that was already done on like straight Android.
And no mention of the Google Nexus box. Like that thing is dead in the water.
Yeah, they can't seem to catch a break on that stuff.
What do you think it is? Do you think that it's that they're always late to the game and they're just constantly changing? Because if you look at it, Roku is stuck with Roku. Apple TV, lack of support and lack of updates, but they've stuck to Apple TV. Google has changed it like 4 or 5 times.
So Apple TV has a pretty terrible interface, but the truth is that box today compared to that box like 2 years ago is night and day, because there's a huge number of services on there now. And that, I think, is the impact that Roku has had, because what Apple would prefer to do is go at their own. And if they can't go it completely their own, I'm sure there's this thought of a handful of tier A services like Netflix. We'll get those on there. That's fine. But if you look at it today, it's like there's this huge collection of services on there. So it's completely different. I can't get this camera to just stay up there. I don't know.
It looks good.
There's something weird about it.
You should just take a bat to it, Paul.
If I could raise my chair. maybe that's what happened.
That might help. I don't know. I'm excited to try it out, because I've heard nothing but good stuff about it and how fast it is. That it's super, super fast and just easy to navigate.
The Fire TV.
The Fire TV.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty good. Yeah.
So I am getting another TV for the living room, so that's what I'm going to use it for. But I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, because I'm excited to get it. It's coming tomorrow, so I'm going to try it out. Yeah. There's so much to talk about, Paul. There's a lot to talk about. But before we do, I want to thank our advertiser, and they're back, and that's Harry's. I think we all shave here, Paul. You shave, I shave. I got a beard going, but surprisingly, I still have to shave. And the problem with using a cheapo razor is that, you're cutting yourself. It's not smooth. It irritates my skin when I use a lower end razor. And going to the store to buy, the nice ones, they lock this thing away. They treat you like a criminal for even wanting it. You got to page somebody to open up a razor. You don't have to deal with that with Harry's. They mail it to you. It comes to your door. They're great pieces of, I guess, shaving gear. And they have a phenomenal deal for our audience. They were so happy with us a couple months ago because they sold so many of them, and a lot of our viewers, which I encourage you guys to do this again. Whenever you're buying a Harry's shaving set, or you buy a razor or an add-on or anything from them, tweet them. Let them know that we told you about this. They got a great deal right now. They have the limited edition Winter Winston, which is their winter version of the Winston, which is their phenomenal shaving set. If you use offer code WhatTheTechHoliday, you get $5 off at checkout. The cost of these razors are fractional when you compare them to some of the other brands that are out in the store. They also have aftershaves, moisturizers. They have a lot of accessories to go along with this. I'm a big fan of Harry's. I'm not a big fan of I'm going to say the Gillette Fusion and stuff like that. I've been using different razors for a long time, and since they sent me my my Winston, I've been using that all the time. And I like to shave in the shower. Gets my face nice and soft, and this does a great job. That's harrys.com. Use offer code WhatTheTechHoliday. Get $5 off the limited edition Winter Winston. And let them know that we sent you. I want to thank Harry's for supporting What the Tech. And a great gift for the holidays. If you don't know what to get somebody, this is a phenomenal gift. That's harrys.com. So, Paul, let's... that's not it. There we go. That's a wrong lower third I just pulled up. Let's talk about a couple things that happened. Mike, there were leaked images of a new Lumia phone.
Yeah.
The 1030 with a gigantic back bump.
Yep.
It's big, right? Or is it just like an illusion? It looks like it's a big bump in the back.
It's probably a big bump.
Yeah.
Well, assuming it's real, by the way. So
assuming it's real.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I yeah, we're a ripe bunch for the picking. So like, people that love Windows Phone desperately want any sign at all that there's going to be another flagship phone, and preferably a 1020 replacement like that. And so we want to believe that that's real, but we don't know.
Is it possible that it's not real? Like, what are the odds?
50-50.
50-50.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't correspond to anything we know about phones that are coming up. And the way that we know about those phones coming up is because I know the guys that run Ad Duplex, and they look for these, they can see what phones are in use. And so it's not possible for Microsoft or its partners to test phones without them seeing it, and they get they have like model numbers, and they can tell through hardware polling some of the features of the phone, for example, like how big the screen is, what the resolution is, that kind of stuff. And that phone, as specified, has not come up on any of these usage statistics. And so I'm not saying it's not real. I mean, I hope it is, and I want it to be.
I mean, the one that I see right here has an IMEI number in the back, and it has, the prototype number in the back. And I mean, it's possible that it is real, but it's not coming out. I mean, that's also a possibility.
Yeah, but so 20 years ago, it was actually more than 20 years ago. You can go back to the 1950s or 60s, and people using kind of analog means could fake photographs, right? And not just photographs. Like here's a photograph of the Loch Ness Monster, which is actually a photograph of a small thing floating in the water, not a monster. Or here's a photo of Sasquatch. Or here's a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald that everyone swears has been fixed in some way, and of course the advent of Photoshop makes that so much easier.
There's a picture of the bullet actually curving.
Yes.
Somewhere.
So
somewhere on the internet.
So we're at the point now where it's easy to fabricate anything. It's easy. I mean, those are photos for one thing, but people, remember in the build up to the iPhone 6, companies or people were manufacturing cases that exactly met the blueprints or design that we knew that the device was going to have.
Yeah.
And then built, they applied glass, they had the back, they basically built a fake iPhone 6 where they could hold it up in space and say, see, look, I mean, this is exactly what it's going to look like.
Even down to the point that you had fake Chinese manufacturers making an iPhone 6 that was exactly like the iPhone 6 that we got months later.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about it. I don't know if it's real or fake. I just, I think we should just be cognizant of the fact that the world we live in right now, anything is possible, and we want to believe it's real. And I do personally want to believe it's real. I hope it's real. I will get it as soon as I can if it is real. But
do you think Microsoft looks at the 1020 as their flagship in the sense that this is their main phone, this is their highest end phone, and this is what they want to sell? Well, everything else is secondary, but this is it.
No.
Yeah.
So, no.
Is it because
it's not
aesthetically?
It's well past. No. The 1020 is well past its prime. It is like a dual core device that's over 18 months old now. It's been superseded by much newer chipsets, much newer devices, bigger screen devices. There are devices that have smaller cameras but take just as good pictures. The 1520 falls into that category. The Icon and the 930 fall into that category.
But at the time, at the time, I never felt that Microsoft considered this the flagship. It was always, the 928 or whatever it was at the time.
Yeah. Well,
whatever was going to get the most mainstream usage. I think this is more of a. the whole Lumia line is more of a niche product considering how big the market is, and they don't have a huge market share. But
in particular, yeah, the high-end devices of late, last year and a half or so, have been aspirational devices, not necessarily bestsellers. But to a certain segment of the population, that is an incredible device because the camera is incredible. It really is. It's still unsurpassed. I mean, everyone, the iPhone 6 has the best camera. No, actually it doesn't. And anyone who says that has never used a 1020. That's not true. The 1020 is the best smartphone camera in the world, period.
Absolutely, yeah.
Period. This is not open for debate. Yeah, it's a little slow. Yep, of course it is. It doesn't have some of the chipset backing that maybe other phones might have. It doesn't have a modem processor anymore, certainly. Of course. Yep. Oh, yes. Doesn't have expandable memory. Got it. But just the quality of that camera, unsurpassed.
I mean, according to the rumors, this 1030 is supposed to have a 50 megapixel camera in it, which is tremendous.
50 is bigger than 41, so that sounds believable.
It is.
No, here's the problem. So I'm not saying saying it's not real, but and I'm not an expert about cameras or optics or anything like that, but one of the things that Apple has been very effective at communicating is that you don't always have to go up in megapixels to get better quality. The size of the pixels matter. The quality of the optics matters. Glass versus plastic optics matters. Optical image stabilization matters. There's all kinds of things that go into making a good photo or making a camera that takes consistently good photos.
With that said, why does Android
50 megapixels? Like, really? Like, that to me is actually an indication. It almost seems like the next one could have had fewer megapixels, and what they would be talking about is how they are bigger pixels, or because of the speed of the coprocessor, that this thing now takes rapid fire shots at full resolution. Steadies it so you don't get a lot of blur, and that would be a much bigger deal, both to normal people and to the photographer types who would tend to lean toward this kind of camera phone. So I don't know. Yeah, 50 megapixels. That was the one where I was like, I don't know.
When I saw that, I was like, okay, I get it, but
it's got 125 megapixels. Awesome.
400 megapixels. You could get your entire neighborhood in one shot and zoom in and see the person taking a shower.
Yep, it's what the NSA uses to spy on Europe from space.
Yeah.
It's the same exact lens. No, that makes me wonder, but
they're using 1020s, multiple 1020s just stacked on top of each other.
Right in a grid array, like on a satellite somewhere.
With that said, Paul, why does Android still suck when it comes to cameras?
I don't know, but the one thing I can,
it's so, and I'll tell you why I say this. My brother has the 6 Plus. My friend got the 6. Mm-hmm. I have a 5S. I have a 5S next to me. I have my wife's 5, and then I have my 2 Android phones here. And I took the same exact shot on all of them.
Yeah, but what are your phones? Because your phones may not be optimal for.
I mean, I have a One Plus, which is a flagship phone.
Right, but I don't know anything about the camera.
It's supposed to be one of the better Android camera phones. I mean, it's one of the top ones. I've even used an S, like even the S5S, S5, whatever.
5S is okay. Yeah, S5.
The iPhone tremendously surpassed all my Android devices that I used.
Yeah. The iPhone is quick, and it takes consistently good pictures. And I think that's the biggest strength, because for the normal people that are using an iPhone, they want to point it at something and tap the button and have it just work. And it does a great job of that.
I don't understand why they're bad. Why are these cameras bad?
They've gotten better. I mean, the 5S is not.
The M8 is probably the best
S5.
Camera I've used. The M8, the HTC M8 is probably the best camera that I use. But still, it is not.
The Note cameras are good.
It's okay.
And by the way, for whatever it's worth, the Nexus 5, when that phone first came out, the camera was pretty terrible. It was really middling. It took kind of washed out photos, I guess is the way I would put it. I don't know whether it was some update to the device or whether it was the release of Google Camera, the app, but that phone now takes tremendous photos, actually.
Yeah, what the issue I have is, like with all the Apple devices that I use to take a photo, It's
Yeah.
quick enough to detect the exposure. Like it's able to auto adjust the exposure exactly where it should be. Obviously, if it's a really low light room, you're gonna have problems with all of them. But I was taking a picture of my living room. I redid the entire living room. I put up the Christmas tree and I'm taking a picture. I'm trying to use my phone. What my phone is doing is overly exposing everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't drop it. It's you got to fiddle with the ISO and you got to bring it down manually. That's crazy. Nobody's going to do that.
Right. No, you're right.
On the iPhone, works perfectly. I take the iPhone out, I snap a picture. Guess what? It was exactly what I wanted it to be on automatic everything. I can't do that on Android, and I don't understand why. It's probably a software issue because when I tune this thing up, even a phone that's a year and a half old, I could get a really nice picture if I tune it.
I don't think people want to spend the time to learn how that works.
No, they
and
don't.
even the 1020, which has incredible manual controls. I 99% of the time I used it not fully automatic, and most of the time it worked great, including in low light situations. Although some of the firmware updates kind of messed around with that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, this is the appeal of the iPhone. I mean, if you want consistently good pictures and you're a normal person, get
not the
an
best,
iPhone. And
not the best picture, consistently decent.
You know what though? But they are. I would say they're consistently very good pictures, and that's what people want. You don't want to miss something in a blur. And I just wish the iPhone had a camera button. I know that you can use a volume button to take a photo, but the point behind a camera button in some ways is just to get the camera up front and center immediately, regardless of what you're doing. And that, they're kind of anti-button, but I think that would help.
I still stand by that BlackBerry did something phenomenal with their Z20, and their camera was really good on that phone.
I've never used one.
I had a review phone for a while, and I actually really liked the phone. Unfortunately, it's BlackBerry. That was the problem. But I'm curious on if this device, let's say this device is real, and the 1030 is real, and they got a 50 megapixel camera. Is this their focus now? Is this their angle with their phones where they're saying, you know what, we can't make up the market share. That's going to be a pain, but we're going to give you phenomenal cameras in these things. And that's our selling point.
It's not. No, and this is another reason.
Can it be?
I wish it could be. So the problem is the Nokia / Microsoft phones that have had excellent cameras have never sold well. Period. Not one of them. So it stinks because those of us in the know realize that these things are something special, and I hope they make more. I hope this thing's real. But the truth is, what sells from Microsoft / Nokia is the low end stuff. And actually, I think they're going to make a pretty good business out of that. And if
the
you
lower
think
end
about,
stuff.
Yeah. And it's kind of the analog to the HP Stream 11, HP Stream 13 on the PC side, or the HP Stream 7 or 8 on the tablet side, where they've really, in fact, maybe have overdone it, where they have so many different models of low end phones. 530, 535.
That 535
635.
That 635 is a great phone.
Yep, they're all and
for what it is,
with the exception of the 530, which is the really lowest end one. These are all fantastic devices, and you can kind of move up from 535 all the way on up through the model list, and they're all great in their own right. And I think they're gonna, they didn't do it effectively with the 830. But the 830 and the 730 / 735 were offering kind of high-end features at a lower price. And now with the 535, which is the one I just wrote about today, which I don't think will be sold in the United States ever, but maybe someday in the future. But, sub $100 phone, no contract, dual SIM. But also, again, the theme here is bring high-end features down to the low end, for under $100, right? So they've got some of the sensors you might not typically see on the low-end devices, 5-inch screen, 960 by 540, which is kind of a weird resolution, but really kind of a nice looking screen.
Yeah.
Really, really thin and light design. A selfie camera. This is some nice stuff in there. And
with the 635, like when you have a device like the 635, are they looking at it as like, okay, well, this is what we're selling because this is inexpensive and people are buying these. And once they're in the ecosystem, then they're committed. So when they want to get a more expensive phone, they're going to move up.
Yeah. Look,
who's buying these phones? That's my other question. Like, a lot of them obviously are the no contract go phones, but who's buying them?
Right. So, okay. So first of all, if you were to walk outside your door and go into New York City, you would see iPhones, right?
Absolutely.
And your conclusion from this would be iPhone must be the best-selling handset in the world. And the answer is no, you're wrong. Actually, it's not. But it's close. I mean, and certainly in the United States, maybe it is, but worldwide, not the case. And so things change when you move from country to country and from market to market. And it's different. And so the United States is a weird kind of a special case. iPhone is abnormally a big part of sales here.
Yeah.
Worldwide, it's 80-something% is Android, right? But the market that Microsoft is going after is the low end of the market. And so actually some of that is in the United States. It's those no contract Go phones, like you were saying. T-Mobile, same thing. A lot of share there. But primarily it's other markets. It's Mexico, it's South America, it's some of the poorer countries in Europe, it's Asia, it's Africa. It's everyone keeps talking about the next billion. But I think it's a little more profound than the next billion, because this is really about getting people on board that have never used technology at all. And you want their mind share. You want them to think Microsoft when they think about technology. You want them to be hooked on OneDrive. You want them using Xbox Music. You want them using OneNote. You want them using Office. Because it's, a couple bucks per phone, you could sell 10 million phones, and that's not a huge business for a company Microsoft size. It's not really a big deal. But getting those guys invested in these ecosystems where they're part of your set of platforms, that's a big deal to Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious on how these the blue Windows phones are going to do.
Yeah, I had expected more from new third party Windows phones by now.
I mean, 149.
Yeah, so that's a decent device.
Yeah.
That's a good example of. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the specs exactly, but I want to say let's say that's roughly equivalent.
Yeah, it's
okay,
a
so it's
5-inch
Snapdragon
display.
200 or 400.
Snapdragon 200.
Yeah, so this is roughly analogous to a 730, 735.
Yeah.
Except you said a 5-inch display.
5-inch display. 720 by 1280. 1280 by 720.
720p. That's great. So you can see some of the advantages over the Microsoft stuff, right? Bigger screen, high resolution screen, probably has more storage. What is it, 16 gigs or 8 gigs of storage?
But it has a micro SD up to 32.
Okay, so that's actually the same.
Yeah, 1 gig of RAM.
1 gig of RAM. That's good. I think that's the same. I think 730 is
4G. I mean, everything else is pretty much standard.
Yeah, so what you get there is kind of like a plastic build quality, which is fine. It's nothing special, but it's fine. But you get, some people want the bigger screen, and there's something you can get. It's relatively cheap. And is there a big market for that? In the U.S., probably not. But I don't think, I keep telling people, hey, my iPhone screen broke, and I'm 3 months away from, or 6 months, or 1 year away from my contract renewing. I don't want to pay for that. Yeah. I don't want to get something, I always say, buy a Lumia, experience a Windows phone, and and it's fine advice, but the truth is, like, that's not a market either.
Your phone broke? Go buy a Lumia.
Lumia is the phone you buy when your real phone broke and you're between contracts. Like, you kind of want to shoot a little higher than that.
By the way, Ryder in our chat room says that the 730 is a Snapdragon 400 processor.
Is a 400? Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't remember, device to device, but like this, I know the 535 is a 200.
Okay, I got a stupid question.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not stupid. Since these chipsets are using, Snapdragon, whatever, 400 or 800, whatever, can't any Android phone now be, can't somebody cook it and make it into a Windows phone?
Well, an individual can't, because those images aren't available, for people to use.
But it's possible for the OEMs to do this to any Android phone.
They are doing. That's what those blue phones are.
Yeah, they're Android phones, absolutely. But anybody could. I would love to see today where you got, like, HTC's going to do this, and I think they're maybe onto something. They're taking the M8 and they're putting Windows on it. When you're buying the phone, you should have the option to say.
Should have the choice. Yeah, so they're not actually going to do that. I think there might be licensing issues there, but yeah, I mean, that would be nice. That would be nice.
I mean, I would love to put Windows on this thing. Yeah,
or at least have the option. It's like dual booting with Linux, on a PC or something. It's nice just to have that option.
But you can't do it if you can't. I'm sure, maybe you can't.
No, you can't.
I want to know if someone's done that. They've taken like a Samsung Galaxy S4 and they put Windows on.
I don't know the details of this, but I think phones have secure bootloaders and things. I don't think this is it's not like a PC. Like a PC is the Wild West. someone could throw it in ISO. You make a disk, boot with it. You can put,
Yeah.
put an old version of BOS on it if you wanted to or something. I don't think it works that way with phones.
Because you can unlock the bootloader on some of these. Like
Yeah,
I haven't
okay,
unlocked
but
the
I don't. But it's you need the driver set, and that's not always publicly available, and there's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. But
So somebody, I always talk about the OnePlus, and it kind of reminded me of I praise this phone. I really think this is a phenomenal phone. But here is the downside of going with a no-name company like OnePlus, right? They're not Samsung, they're not HTC, it's not LG.
right,
Their partner is Cyanogen, and they're
Right.
putting Cyanogen ROM on this thing. Cyanogen made a custom ROM for this. Cyanogen signed an exclusive deal with another Chinese, phone company to put the OS on their phones. They no longer are going to be supporting OnePlus. So now
wow.
OnePlus has to go to another OS, which is I think they
Yeah.
have another one that they put on their
another
other phone.
OS.
Well, it's Android, but it's not
Okay.
going to be Cyanogen's
Right.
Android.
They're going
it's
to
going to be
Tizen or whatever.
yeah,
It's called.
yeah. They're going to
Oh.
WebOS, Paul. They're going back to
WebOS,
WebOS.
nice.
So they've lost Cyanogen, and that was the selling point of this thing. Now they're going
Right.
to another thing called, I think, Color OS.
Okay.
And the next version, I guess, whenever they put Lollipop on this thing, is not going to be Cyanogen.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yep.
That's the downside of having a device like this, guys.
But nobody normal buys that kind of device, right? Nobody like average consumer.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I've been every time I take this phone out, almost every time,
Yeah, but-
somebody will come and be like, "Oh, is that the OnePlus?"
Oh, really?
It's the
okay.
most
That's
bizarre
interesting.
thing in the world.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so bizarre that people know what this is. I get stopped all the time, and then they ask me if I have an invite code. I just gave out an invite code to a random person. I got it, and I had promised them it was a viewer, and I just sent them an invite code. Like, people are actually interested in this device.
Wow.
So, I guess people know what it is. I guess people are smarter than we think. And
Let's be really clear about that. They aren't.
they're not. No,
But anyway,
they're not. They're not. You know what? You want to talk about nuts? You got to watch my relatives during Thanksgiving, taking out their devices and their iPads and taking pictures with an iPad too. It drives me nuts.
That's too bad.
Yeah. A couple things, Paul. A lot of stuff's happening.
Yes.
Since we're on the Android topic,
Mhm.
there was a statistic that came out. I think CNET had an article on it about the usage of Lollipop, Android 5.0. It has barely made a dent. It is less than 0.1% of the
Right.
user base.
I mean, is there a single major handset maker that has rolled this out to any existing phones? I don't think so.
And this drives me nuts. And I know people are gonna, they have their reasons.
Okay.
People are gonna say, well,
First of all-
it's not Google, it's the manufacturer. Sure, it's the carrier. Sure.
I'm pretty sure it's the carriers. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Why?
here's the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I normally my reaction to this would be, who cares? This doesn't impact too many people. If you've done this, you go into the city, you see people at a bar or something, they have their phones out. You look and you see what's on the screen, and you can kind of tell it's like a slightly older version of Android or some kind of thing, whatever. And I don't think most people care at all about that stuff.
You don't think they care about updates at all?
No, I don't think they think about it. What they hear about is, oh, did you hear about this new app you got to get? And I think to them, that's the experience of the apps, and it's no big deal. But honestly, in Android 5.0, I actually do think this is a big deal. I have Android 5 on my Nexus 5. I have it on the Nexus 9 tablet. And Android 5.0 is a big deal.
Absolutely,
and it has nothing to do with like application compatibility, although, by the way, there are issues there. But they've finally done something to the user experience where it feels consistent and whole, and it seems to make sense, and it's beautiful to look at. And depending on, I don't know how they're doing this on other phones. I don't really pay attention to this, but I suppose on your phone, maybe you might have the material design version of Gmail on there right now, or Google Calendar, perhaps. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but some of these apps are starting to make their way out. But the effect of having that consistent user experience across all of your apps, which is the case in Android 5, is pretty it's pretty excellent. Like it's I'm not going to make the claim that it's as consistent and I don't know, fine tuned as say iOS is or whatever.
But it's close. I mean, it's
For the first time ever, I would say it's
yeah.
pretty damn close. Yeah. So this is a release I really feel like needs to get out to everybody. You know, having this on my Samsung Galaxy S5 might make me use that phone. Whereas today I look at it and I'm like, like whatever, because it's Samsung's skin and it's got all this.
But you know what, though, Paul? Why don't they actually? I know that that's probably, but why don't they say, listen, we want this to be a major push for the top 6 phones currently on the market.
You're talking about Google. Like,
I'm saying
why
Google.
doesn't
Yeah.
Google?
So
Yeah.
if you're gonna have, if you're a partner and you're putting this operating system on your phones, these are the phones that we want pushed out on November 5th. Every one of these will get the update.
Right.
And
Well, they can't do that, right?
They can't.
I mean, because it's the carriers.
But why not? Why not go to the carriers and work something out with them? I mean, you want.
You're saying so that statement assumes that the carriers are human beings that are rational.
Yeah.
Which I will tell you that they are not. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, Windows Phone doesn't have this problem.
Well,
iOS doesn't have
Windows Phone does in fact have this problem.
not to the extent of Android. I mean,
but I think the diversity. This is that double-edged sword thing. The diversity of the Android ecosystem is what makes this difficult. And we can sort of dump on the carriers because they deserve it. But the truth is, think about AT&T. They must have some stunning array of hardware types and all their weird little differences and the drivers that are required for all the devices that are in there. And I mean, it must be a Herculean task to ensure that this stuff actually works, because when you bork someone's phone, you've just ruined their life, you know, and you have to be careful with that stuff. You know, it has to actually work. And I'm not to completely defend them, but I think there is some reason for their behavior. I think they overdo it. You know, I think they're overly cautious. I think that there's no reason for them to say, okay, as an enthusiast, you're going to jump through some hoops. You're going to click on a lot of OK boxes.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's going to happen is this thing is no longer under warranty. We're not supporting it anymore. And if you bork it, that's your problem.
that's your problem. Yeah.
You have to pay for a new phone. And you know what? The people who really want it will go through it and do it anyway. You know, I wish they would do that.
Well, you kind of could do that with Windows Phone, right?
Well, you could only kind of. So you can do it through the developer preview program. You can only do it for the OS releases. But in a lot of ways, the special part of Windows Phone, at least on the Microsoft Nokia side, is the Lumia firmware updates. And those aren't included in the developer preview program. By the way, absolutely should be. I mean, and that's a change I hope to see happen. Why they've not announced this or why they've not done it, no idea. They still seem to move at kind of a weird snail's pace in some ways.
It's such a weird time right now for mobile devices because there's so many of them out there and they're all the same. I mean, you compare, an LG G3 and you compare the Samsung Galaxy S5 and you take all these top phones and they're all essentially the same thing, but they all behave so differently. Specs-wise are identical, every single one of them.
Well, again, this is another double-edged sword part of Android. It's because in that case, the hardware maker freaks around with the user experience. They do their own shell. And that might be why you don't see an Android 5 thing on Samsung yet, because they haven't Samsung the thing up yet. You know, they're going to ruin it with their own baloney, like they always do. So that's part of it. You know, there's all kinds of weird stuff with this. Think about this: like millions and millions of normal people use these phones, right? So you update someone to Android 5, which I just said was awesome and incredible. There's some guy, a friend of mine, my friend Chris, who probably has some 3-year-old Android phone with some 3-year-old version, like probably 2.6 or something. Yeah. And he gets this upgrade. And he's like, "What did you do to my phone? Like, I liked the way it was. Like, I was familiar with that.
Yeah.
I don't care about technology."
I see that with a lot of iPhone users. Any one of my wife's friends, if I pick up their phone to put it to charge or something,
iOS 6.
you see like the little update button, and I'm like, oh, you got an update? It's like, no, I don't want to do an update. I don't want to do updates.
Yeah,
they're happy with it. I guess you're right.
Right now, and this has been true since I don't know midsummer or something like that. I'm using the iPad Mini that I bought a year ago, right? So the iPad Mini Retina
2. iPad Mini 2.
Like what we now call an iPad Mini 2.
Yeah.
And I use it to read, not the newspaper because you can't get the newspaper on there, but I read magazines and I read books. When I go to bed, I read for a little while on this thing. If I'm traveling, I will put a movie or TV show on there or something like that. One or two games, that kind of thing. And I do Duolingo on it, actually. I also use it for Duolingo. That's it. I don't, honestly, if I could wipe every other app off of that thing, I'd probably be fine. I mean, I'd probably want a web browser or whatever, but I don't really use it. I don't, that it's on version 7 or 7.1 or 8 or 8.1 or 6, even if it could go back to 6, like, honestly, does it impact my usage of that thing in the slightest? No, I mean, not at all. Like, it really doesn't. It's more important. I mean, it's not important to me, but I mean, I have some kind of I don't even know what it is off the top of my head, but I have some kind of a background image, I'm sure, on it. That impacts the use of it more than the version number of the OS. I mean, I don't think people care about this stuff. I kind of don't on a device like that, where I really don't care about the device itself. It's just a good size screen. It's thin and light and all that kind of stuff. But that it runs iOS, it doesn't matter to me in the slightest. I don't care about that at all.
I don't know. It's an interesting time. It's a very interesting time.
Yeah.
Updates.
Yeah.
This is the whole thing. I think last week you said we're gonna look back and we're gonna be like, remember when you had to do updates?
Yeah.
Just
the
everything.
first thing you open the box, like, update it.
Update game.
I think the Fire Stick does that. I think that might have been the impetus for that discussion. I think it was the Fire TV Stick. And I'm sure your Fire TV will do that. You'll plug that thing in. You must download an update before you can continue.
I mean, even with TVs now. I mean, can you imagine? Like, I know people that are getting smart TVs. Yeah. The second you plug it in, you turn it on, and asks you to connect to Wi-Fi, and needs to do a firmware update. Because think about it.
My TV, it crashes sometimes. Well, I'm sorry. Actually, it turns out it's not really crashing, but
just turning off.
It seems like it crashes, so it turns off, and then the front light blinks. And for a while we used to try to fix it, like we'd unplug it and plug it in again. And,
yeah.
And it would take a while to come back. We didn't really understand why. And so I finally looked it up. And actually, it was rebooting to install an update. That's what that was.
You're kidding me.
That blinking light meant that it was installing an update.
Who's going to know that?
I don't know. Like, and why wouldn't you put a message on the screen?
We're updating. Don't turn this off.
Yeah. I always thought that was good. But those, I mean, once you understand what it's doing, it's no big deal. You know what I mean? Now, because in the beginning we were thinking, wow, we're gonna have to return this TV, like it's something wrong with it. And now it doesn't. It's not like it does it every week, but every once in a while, thing reboots, light in the front blinks. We're like, okay, it's okay, it'll be fine. It's running Windows updates.
So last week we were talking about TVs, and I got a lot of comments about it. A lot of comments from, because I guess this hit like a spot with a lot of people, because they're in the same boat too, because they're looking to get a new TV, and there's some people that know what they're doing, and there's some people that don't know what they're doing. So I did my homework, and I found out that first of all, people think I'm insane that I don't want a 4K TV.
Yeah.
Everybody's telling me I'm wrong, and I should just buy a 4K TV. And my point is, well, I don't want to get a 4K TV because it's not the price, because it's only like $100 more. But how good a 4K is it? Like, do you remember like the early days when you got like a 1080p TV and then all the SD channels looked like garbage? Like, that's how that was a problem. So I don't want to get a 4K. I'm waiting. I'm going to wait until I get something really nice. The other thing is, people are like, well, why don't you get like a OLED?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're like,
why do you get a plasma? Well, you still can.
You know what? I actually want to get a plasma, and I'm looking for a good plasma to get.
You gotta move quick.
Yeah, away. But they're not cheap. Like I was looking at Panasonic has a tremendous plasma, and it's like 2 years old, and the thing is still going for like $1,000. I also don't want to deal with like a heavy piece of TV. Like the thing's gonna be like 1,000 pounds of plasma.
Yeah. That's the nicest thing about new TVs. They're so thin and light, and
so I've decided I'm gonna go with a Vizio. I'm gonna go with their M-Class Vizio.
Nice. Is that the SUV?
The
model?
SUV model of the
Yeah.
of that. So a lot of people helped me out, and we kind of, like I was getting so many suggestions. I was like, yeah, you know what? Go
What
with
size?
the Vizio.
46?
55.
55.
Yeah.
How much are these things?
780.
Yeah.
It's like $800.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
That'll
like
be my next TV. In fact, when this blinking thing ever stops blinking, I'll die someday. That will probably be exactly what I get.
Yeah. So
Because we have a Vizio. The thing I'm describing is a Vizio.
yeah, and then I was doing like the measurements where they're saying like, well, if it's a 55, you should be this far away from it, and if it's a 65, you should be 8 feet away from it, at least 8 feet away. I took measurements and everything, and then the other thing is the M Class has more lights in the back, has more LEDs. So I think it's like 32 LEDs.
I'm sorry, you mean on the screen? Yeah.
On the screen, it has 32 LEDs, and the E Class has 16.
Okay.
So how much of a difference is it going to make? I have no idea. But it's more, so you want it.
More is always better.
More is always better. I don't care what it has. But I've also learned that you can't really buy a TV that's not a smart TV anymore.
Yeah.
They're all smart TVs.
Are they though? Smart.
I mean, they can't be really smart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I envision that they're not the smartest.
In other words, they have they probably all come with like Roku or Netflix built into them and Yahoo weather widgets and whatever stupid stuff that smart TVs have.
Like, I just don't want it. I just want the display. Just give me a dumb display and let me connect what I want to it.
Yep.
You really can't do that anymore. And I've also learned that Sony's are still beautiful TVs.
But I bet they're really expensive.
Crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why they have the price point that they do.
Well, they used to be able to command that kind of price point, but actually Vizio is the prime culprit, right? Vizio is the, Xiaomi or whatever of that business. I mean, they're kind of killing them.
Let's go to the website, actually. Full HD. I'm going to, well, they so 65 inch, ultimate LED. I don't know what an ultimate LED HD TV is.
This is Sony?
Sony, $2,000.
Yeah.
You get a free 3D streaming Blu-ray disc player.
Yeah, what about you don't care about 3D at all?
I don't care for it. No, nothing. Does nothing for me. So just a standard 60 inch. Here's another one. It's $1,300. Yeah, it's still expensive. It is not cheap. 60 inch. The cheapest 60 inch is $1,000. People must be buying it if they're selling it for that much. I think just people they know the brand and they're like, oh yeah, it's Sony. It's good. I'm just going to buy it.
But then they go to Costco and they see a Vizio that's $780 and they're like, actually, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reality of it. I think that kind of brand loyalty thing that Sony used to rely on is just a thing of the past.
I think brand loyalty is totally out the window when you talk about anything. I think Apple's one of the few that has brand loyalty. They're the only ones.
And it's because this stuff is disposable. So why would you be, loyal to something you're going to throw away in a year or 2 years anyway? It doesn't matter. And when your Vizio dies and you go back to wherever you go to buy it in 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, you're just going to do the same thing again. You're going to buy the thing that makes the most sense at the time, regardless of who it is. It may be a company you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Today. It might be Nokia branded. It seems like they're throwing their logo on everything these days.
Other than Apple, what other company has tremendous brand loyalty?
In consumer electronics?
In consumer electronics, yeah.
I don't think there is anyone. I mean, there are lesser companies that have brand loyalty in their little niches, like Bose, I think falls into this category. But they don't have a big presence, like compared to Apple. People thought Samsung did for a little while. But you see how fickle that market is when they're getting killed on the low end by these no-name Chinese companies, and then they're getting killed in the high end by Apple. And so the truth is, Samsung doesn't have that. Google certainly doesn't. Those guys can't release a set-top box that anybody wants to buy. They can't release a tablet that anyone wants to buy. Even the stuff that people say is good, like the Nexus 7.
They can't sell them.
You don't see Nexus 7s anywhere in the world. I mean, it just doesn't happen, So I can't think there is Apple special in every way imaginable. I mean, they're just in the sense that, and I mean that in the strictest sense of the word special. They're the exception to every rule. You could talk about business strategy that's as sound as whatever, and Apple doesn't do it, and they kick everyone else's ass. It's just the way it is. We'll always try to explain it, but it's
amazing.
really kind of unexplainable. Yeah,
especially nowadays. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there were people that only bought Sony TVs because they were loyal to the brand. Motorola also had brand
Sony
loyalty.
Sony had it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Sony, they had the and it was very Apple-esque, before there was an Apple. Well, before there was an Apple like we know it today. They had a Walkman, and then they did the CD stuff, and people would buy like these single disc Sony CD things, and then the Sony, multi-changer discs and DVD players. I mean, we kind of went along with Sony for a while there. They had their things that didn't take off, mini discs and so forth. But, by and large, I think people went down the Sony rabbit hole again and again and again. But the problem was they abused it. And mini disc is actually not a bad example, but they're MP3 players, which actually weren't MP3 players. They were whatever Sony's format was called. I forget the name of it. In the beginning were locked, so they couldn't play MP3 players. They were really beautiful looking, but they kind of screwed the pooch there. They had a great PC business, screwed the pooch there. They had a great TV business. They've been undercut by others in every possible way, and through some combination of ineptitude and just wrong pricing and whatever. They lost their place. Sony style stores used to be the Apple stores. Remember?
Yeah, I mean, like, look at Panasonic, right? Who's buying Panasonic anything? Like, what do they? I don't even know what they do anymore.
Nobody looks for a Panasonic.
You know what I mean? Like,
what happens is you go to the store to buy a thing,
and it's a Panasonic.
Well, maybe that's the one that's on sale.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone said, honey, we're going to the store. We have to get a Panasonic. You know what I mean? We're going to buy a VCR. We're going to buy a DVD player. We're going to buy a TV. We're going to buy whatever. Panasonic's on sale. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Pioneer, that was a great brand.
Yeah.
Pioneer was phenomenal.
Well, you're talking to a guy, I used to buy like Sears brand stuff, and like Sears, how I wish I could remember the name of some of this stuff. Like, companies have like house brands, right?
Yeah.
Like if you go to a supermarket, like they'll have their own kind of mayonnaise and salad dressing.
America's Choice.
Yeah. Costco does that. Like everything's Kirkland brand, and I think if you went to Sears, like in the early 1980s, I think Sears had brand, like was Kenwood a Sears brand? Does that make sense?
No, Kenwood was like Kenwood.
I want to say that
Kenmore?
Sears had Kenmore. Well, Kenmore was. Kenmore was.
Yeah.
Kenmore was their home appliance brand, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but they had it wasn't Sears brand, but they had some brand of, crappy stereo stuff.
Yeah.
Tape players that did nothing but hiss.
There's like Sanyo, right? There was like Sanyo, and there was a bunch of these.
Well, you could go back further. There was Realistic.
There
was Sylvania,
And they make light bulbs, Sylvania.
Yeah.
Really good light bulbs, too.
Sure.
I'm trying to think like my father would buy Onkyo everything. Like he was like, if you buy a receiver, you're buying an Onkyo or Yamaha.
It was the audiophile's choice.
Yeah, Yamaha, everything. He was a big fan of Yamaha.
Let's see if I can find this.
And for TVs, he loved Hitachi.
Brands.
Yeah, so Hitachi. It was, I'm trying to think, what was the Sears brand?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Oh, God. I'm trying to, it's at
Sears sold Craftsman. Remember, Sears sold Sears branded Atari and Intellivision consoles. They were just exactly the same, but they had a Sears brand on them.
Someone has to know. Someone has to know in the chat room the Sears brand. Sears. Yeah. Because I remember they make a lot of money from their repair service.
Oh, God. Okay, I found a huge list.
Silvertone? Was that
Tough Skins.
Tough Skins?
They have so many exclusive brands. Allstate started as an exclusive Sears brand. So, I'm looking for stuff that was Dashmate automobile radios and tape players.
I remember that, yeah.
Diehard batteries, Discover Card, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't see anything that sticks out. J.C. Higgins. Sporting goods. Jeez. Kenmore Appliances. Pilgrim Clothing, Robux Clothing, Sears Video Arcade. That was the thing I was just talking about. Yeah, I don't see anything like that. Silvertone and Supertone
Stereos.
records.
Yeah. Let's see.
Weather Beater.
They got so much stuff. Yeah, Sears Video Arcade.
Yeah.
In-house version of the Atari in the early 80s. Discontinued in favor
there was an Intellivision version too. I think it was
Sears apparently had like one of the best return policies for their electronics. I had a friend, his father would buy a computer, and then after 2 years he would just bring it back.
Yeah.
And they would take it and they would give him a new one every time.
Toys R Us would do that too. I came across a Wired article that says that Sears should have morphed into Amazon, which is an easy thing to say, but that's like saying Sony should have morphed into Apple. You know, I guess they should have, but you can't. They were just disrupted.
Everything changes. I mean, look at Radio Shack. Like you consider Radio Shack and what they were, and what they are now. They're just selling cell phones now, and really expensive cables.
I know. Radio Shack used to be, that was like a go-to place. Oh, here we go. I found a picture of can't see what the brand is. It's like a Sears beta format VCR with 14-day 8-program capability, $889.
Wow.
That's $100 off the original price.
Wow. All right, Paul, let's wrap it up. Time to do our post show. If you're watching live, stay tuned. We're going to broadcast the bonus show. If you're not watching live and you listen to the podcast, you could get access to the bonus show by going to patreon.com/whatthetech and funding us. We accept anything and everything. A nickel, a quarter, whatever you got, we take, and you get access to these bonus shows, and it helps us out keep the show limited with ads. We don't want to oversaturate the show with ads. We're going to have some ads, but we're not going to do a bunch of spots on the show because we want to, keep the conversation going. We're all hanging out at the bar. That's the entire thing here. I'm looking in the chat room. Brian Monroe's in there. I know he's not drinking. He's drinking a Coke. I've had a drink with Brian Monroe, actually. He met me at the Ritz-Carlton in San Francisco. Yeah. So patreon.com/whatthetech. You could fund the show there. Also, the holiday season is here. A lot of you guys are buying stuff on Amazon, and you're using our Amazon link. And I really, really, really appreciate that. If you are watching live right now, click on the Amazon banner, bookmark it, and whenever you buy something on Amazon, we get a tiny little credit. And we're going to be redoing a lot of this stuff. I actually have to update our main streaming machine because we're having a lot of issues with the frame rate. It's kind of dropping the frame. I'm looking at it right now. It's kind of dropping frames. So we're going to be using the credits that we have built to buy all our parts. We're going to upgrade the studio. We got to get another mic here. We're going to change the lighting. So a lot of that money comes from Amazon. If you're not watching on the website, you can go to gfq.co/Amazon. That's what it is. gfq.co/Amazon and bookmark it. And whenever you buy something on Amazon, we get a tiny little credit. I appreciate everybody supporting us, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.